All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Rocky Mountain NetSuite User Group. This is our last meeting of 2025. And before I forget, I think this is our anniversary month. And Margie, how old is the user group now?
Started in 2008. So I thought you were going to ask me how old I was. So I'm glad you didn't ask that. So you do the math. I think what, 16 years, 17? I don't.
17.
17 years
17?
old.
Yeah.
Yeah. So happy anniversary to the user group. Thanks everybody for being here today. So this is our agenda. We'll have our welcome and general business and opportunity for member announcements. Then we'll hear from our meeting sponsor today, Paystand, for about 10 minutes. And then we're going to have our main presentation on NetSuite budgeting versus NetSuite planning and budgeting. And that's going to be presented by Kwiatek of Kwiatek Consulting. After that, we'll have a brief update, recap from our SuiteWorld 2025. And then we'll have our open forum at the end of the meeting. The open forum is an opportunity for everybody and anybody here to ask questions of the group, any NetSuite related challenges. If you're having problems figuring something out, or if you have a tip for everybody, it's a good place for everybody to, as a community, to talk about their issues. So membership to our user group is free. You register at RMNSUG.org. Once you register, it ensures that you get notification of upcoming meetings and events. It also gives you our LinkedIn forum access. So if you are not a member yet, please sign up. Where you can find us, we have a website. It's RMNSUG.org. You can also go to YouTube and search for RMNSUG or Rocky Mountain NetSuite User Group. We post all of our videos on YouTube. We have a LinkedIn forum, and I'll show a photo of that here in just a moment. Our LinkedIn forum is now an open group, so you can go to the forum and communicate with other members of the user group. On our website, we have all of our previous meeting recordings. So we get this question a lot. If somebody misses the meeting or they want to share it with a coworker or a colleague, we post them on our website. So you go to rmnsug.org/posts, or you can just click on the posts icon. I'll get my little pointer out. So that would be our posts right there. Great. Now I don't know how to clear that out. Let's see. There we go. So anyway, that we have all of our meeting recordings. We also have all the slides. So all the presenters provide their slides, and you can download them and review them on our website. Our LinkedIn forum, you go to LinkedIn and search for Rocky Mountain NetSuite User Group or just RMNSUG, and you'll find our page there. You can talk to other members. You can post job openings, or if you're looking for a job, any NetSuite related communication can happen there. We do try and keep it a spam-free forum, so we don't allow just anybody to post advertising on our forum. We try and keep it for the members of the user group. Just real quick, I want to introduce the board of directors. We are all volunteers that helps run this user group. So thank you to everybody. That's me in the upper left-hand corner, Corey Anderson. I'm the president of the user group and the founder of Stratos ERP Partners. Then we have our sponsor and membership chair, Margie Cominos of PlantScan Corporation. Margie is one of the founding members of the user group and has been part of the group and on the board for 17 years now. Then we have our communications chair, Mike Kackline of Vertifor. We have our speaker chair, Peggy Evleth of SquareWorks. And SquareWorks just changed names, and I need to update my slide. I forget which one it is, so I apologize, Peggy, if you're on. Then we have our treasurer, Dana Larson of Dana Larson Consulting, and our newest board member, our events chair, Ryan Longnecker of Collective Mind Technologies. So thank you to the board members for everything you do to keep this group up and running year after year.
Peggy is now with the company name has changed to Charted.
Charted, that's right. Thank you, Margie. And I think it was just a change in branding.
Yes.
So member announcements, you can post them in the chat window. You can post on our LinkedIn group. The announcements can be NetSuite or NetSuite adjacent job openings, like accounting openings, working in NetSuite, that type of thing. So I'm just going to take a brief moment. You can unmute yourself if anybody wants to make an announcement now. If not, that's fine. You can post in one of those two places on the chat window here or in our LinkedIn group. So I'll pause here for a few seconds. Anybody wants to make an announcement? Okay, going once, going twice. All right, we'll go ahead and move on. So evaluations will be sent out today. Please take a few minutes to fill out those evaluations. They do help us figure out how we're doing, if everybody's happy with the user group, if there's anything that you want to see change. We do read and act on all the feedback from the evaluations. And one of the most important aspects of the evaluations is content ideas. We do, since we've been doing this meeting or this group for 17 years, we've done pretty much, not everything, but a very large amount of the things that NetSuite offers. We've done meetings on over the years. And so we're always looking for fresh ideas and new content. So please take a few minutes to fill out that evaluation. It's very helpful to us. Our meetings are sponsored. I'm sorry. So membership to our user group is free, but the cost of our meetings is supported by 2 levels of sponsorship. We have Suite App sponsors and consulting sponsors. Suite App sponsors must be available through suiteapp.com. And then consulting sponsors must offer NetSuite consulting services and have certified NetSuite consultants on staff. We do offer an alternative consulting sponsorship, which is if somebody from a consulting firm wants to present at a meeting. And so today our consulting sponsor is Kwiatek Consulting, and so we'll hear from them here in a minute. You can learn more and sign up for either of our sponsorship types at rmnsug.org/sponsorship. We do offer CPE credits. There'll be 2 CPE credits offered for this meeting. Throughout the meeting, there will be polling questions that you must answer to be eligible for the credits. You must have also registered for the Zoom meeting with your first, last name, and email address. Make sure that your Zoom app is up to date for the polling question pop-ups. We have heard sometimes if you're logged in through the web Zoom, the pop-ups don't work, or maybe there's a pop-up blocker in your internet browser and you won't see those pop-ups. So make sure you're logged in through the Zoom app on your computer for the CPE questions. The CPE credits take 4 to 6 weeks to issue, so please be patient on that. And then so a huge thank you to Peggy Evleth and RSM US for sponsoring the CPE credits. So even though Peggy has moved on from RSM has agreed to continue offering or supporting our CPE credits for the user group. And we're very grateful for that. So thank you, RSM. If there's anybody here from RSM on the meeting, we hope to continue to be able to offer the credits through you. So thank you. Our upcoming meetings next January. So in January, we always do a reporting related content. We've done saved searches, advanced saved searches. We've done financial reporting. We've done Suite Analytics, the Suite Analytics workbooks. This coming year, we're going to do NetSuite Analytics Warehouse. This is an add-on service to NetSuite, and it is kind of their next generation or highest level of analytics. So we're really excited to share that with the user group so that everybody can understand what that tool can actually do. In March next year, we're going to have AI in NetSuite, built-in and external options. We're very excited for this one. Obviously, AI is become a bigger part of our everyday lives, and then a huge part of NetSuite, which we'll talk about later in our SuiteWorld recap. But I believe that Ryan Longnecker and Mike Kackline, our 2 board members, are going to be doing that presentation. So we're very excited for that AI in NetSuite in March. Then we're going to do workflows in May. And then our July meeting is NetSuite 101, or otherwise known as Back to Basics. So that's designed for anybody that is new to NetSuite, just kind of wants to learn the basics, navigation, and things like that. All right, so again, thank you to our consulting sponsor today, Kwiatek Consulting. So I'll tell you a little bit about Kwiatek. Kwiatek Consulting is a firm of Oracle NetSuite Enterprise Performance Management experts, otherwise known as EPM, who've been helping companies make smarter decisions with data for over 20 years. The team brings deep expertise in applying best practices across planning and budgeting, financial close and consolidation, account reconciliation, and reporting, including narrative reporting and allocations. With expertise in NetSuite Planning and Budgeting, NSPB, account reconciliation, NSAR, and other EPM tools, Kwiatek Consulting delivers tailored solutions that meet each client's unique business needs. So again, thank you, Brad and team, for supporting the user group and doing our presentation today. And thank you to our SuiteApp sponsor. Our SuiteApp sponsor today is Paystand. And I believe we're going to hear from Paystand right now, and then there's going to be a raffle. I think we have a raffle for Kwiatek Consulting and also Paystand. We'll post those into the chat window as we go through the meeting here. So at this point, I'm going to pause and turn it over to Paystand, and they're going to tell us about what they do.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Corey. How's it going, everybody? My name is Alex Greening. I am a channel partner manager here at Paystand. So for the next 10 minutes, we're just going to kind of roll through a little bit of a quick agenda. We're going to talk about who Paystand is, who we are in the accounts receivable space, and then we'll do a really quick rapid fire mini demo just so you guys can kind of see where we play within NetSuite and all the suite capabilities we have. And then, like Corey said, we've got a really cool raffle that we're issuing off. I think the timing of this is perfect. We got Bo Nix, he's on a tear, leading the AFC West, so we're actually raffling off some Denver Bronco tickets. So in order to qualify for that, we'll send a link in the chat, and you'll have to submit for a 30-minute demo, and then we'll announce who the winners are later this month. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to my counterpart, Tim. Tim?
Yeah, thanks, Alex. And thanks everyone for having us here. I really appreciate everybody who's joined us live today. We're big advocates of these user groups. We love these. We participate in as many as possible. They're great ecosystems and great resources for everyone. So yeah, really appreciate you having us here. So I know we have 10 minutes, so I want to cruise through a couple of things. Like Alex mentioned, just introduce who we are, and then I'll show you a little bit of a sneak peek. I figured I'm a visual learner. It helps to kind of see things, so I'll just cruise through it. And then if you want some more information or to dive in a little deeper, feel free to contact me or Alex, and we'll include our contact info. But really what Paystand is at a high level, we are an accounts receivable automation solution built for NetSuite. We're partners with NetSuite, and as mentioned before by Corey, we are a SuiteApp. You can find us on the SuiteApp marketplace. So what we deliver is it's a SuiteApp. It's an embedded SuiteApp. It lives natively inside NetSuite. And the NetSuite ecosystem is a really big part of Paystand's growth. We've been around for a little over 11 years at this point. NetSuite was the first partnership we established. It was the first product, the first integration that we built. And it's also by far where we have the majority bulk of our customers sitting. So it's been a very successful venture for Paystand, and we love this ecosystem, and we just continue to grow. So our SuiteApp, it embeds directly natively inside NetSuite. Really what we can do is we can support so many different use cases related to accounts receivable, billing processes, even as far down as collections, things like that, being automated from NetSuite. So what we actually need to get started, where Paystand comes into the picture, is once we have a sales order or an invoice created, that's where Paystand comes in, picks up the baton, and then can automate the whole rest of that receivable flow. And there are a lot of products, a lot of features that go into it. I know the slide I have up here it's very busy. There's a lot of text up here. But the whole point of this is just to say whatever type of use case that you want to present to Paystand that you require to run your billing process, let us know. We can support it. So if you need people on automated payments, if you have multiple subsidiaries with multiple bank accounts, if you want collections automation, there's a lot that we can actually do, and we do operate a little bit differently than other payments companies out there. We're actually pretty unique in how we go to market. So Paystand is different from other payments companies by not focusing on transaction fees. We take the approach of being a software company first. Our mentality is to deliver best-in-class software and help people move away from transaction fees. Our value pillars are faster time to cash, eliminate transaction fees, and automate manual effort. So we have a fixed SaaS rate, and with that, we are the only payments vendor on the market that offers a free payment method. What I just pulled up on the screen here is an example of a payer-facing click-to-pay experience. So when they receive their invoice from you, Paystand provides 3 different options to make payments here: ACH, credit, debit card, or we have our own proprietary network called our bank network, and the bank network is completely free. With credit cards, you get our wholesale rate. You just get access to that, and you can decide whatever you want to do with that fee, pass it on, absorb it, split it. You have a lot of flexibility. And same thing with ACH. So you can meet your payers how they want to pay. I'm actually going to jump over to NetSuite here and bounce between a couple different objects, and I'm just going to run through a quick receivable flow, a pretty standard flow. What I have up here is a customer record in NetSuite, and I have pulled up the Paystand virtual terminal. So we live directly inside of NetSuite, which is one of the beautiful things about our Suite app is if you end up leveraging Paystand, your staff does not need to have to manage other dashboards or logins or passwords. They just work inside NetSuite the same way they're doing today, and they have all the functionality that they need to process and apply and reconcile payments. So what we provide in the virtual terminal, you can access this from individual sales orders or invoices as well. From the customer record, you can see a customer's all of their open invoices. You can select maybe somebody's calling in over the phone, they want to authorize a payment. This is a great tool for that, where you can apply credit memos, and then you can also access any funds on file they have. So I have a Capital One account here connected. Maybe I also have credit cards or a bank network transaction, and you can set fees and incentives as well. So if you want to apply discounts or fees, if they want to use a credit card or something like that. That can be brought up from an invoice as well. But from an invoice, we have this open. You can see a couple of buttons here are added by Paystand. I could bring up that virtual terminal by clicking on Pay with Paystand, or we can just launch these invoices or sales orders out to the customers to have them like a self-service payment experience. Once this email goes out, we're leveraging the NetSuite email templates, email engine. Your customers receive a branded template. So this will have your company's logo, your color schemes, and we also attach a copy of the invoice here. So the customer always knows exactly what they're being asked to pay. But they have a very obvious call to action here, this Pay Now button. This link will direct them to that payment experience I just had up as well. We can also, our links can show a customer's all of their open invoices. It doesn't need to just be for a single invoice. So in that experience that we can provide staff facing, we can also put in front of a customer. And one of the beautiful things about this link is that this link doesn't expire. Some of our payers will actually just bookmark this and they'll visit it occasionally, and they can just check what invoices they have open. And again, no login, no password. They don't need to create a Paystand account to do this. They just need to receive their invoices from NetSuite the same way that they're doing today. So as a payer, I would submit my payment here, choose whatever payment method I want. You can see when I click on credit cards, I have fees being automatically charged here. That incentivizes people to use a free option, which we see almost all of our clients doing today. And it's working with great success. So those payers that want to use credit cards, they cover their fees. Otherwise, you're able to give them 2 other options. So it really is up to them. They can choose whatever payment method is best for them at that point in time. Once I submit the payment through here, Paystand will send receipts automatically. And then we do the cash application instantly back to NetSuite. So we'll apply the cash, we'll update the invoice to being paid in full, we'll update the amount due. We do support partial payments if you'd like, or you can just force the full amount due. Then where Paystand, I would say so far what we've seen isn't revolutionary to the industry, providing a click-to-pay industry and applying cash, but providing a free payment method is, and the use cases that we can support is. Where we go further than any other solution is by also providing reconciliation automation. So Paystand is its own gateway, its own processor, and we deliver the funds to your operating bank account. So when those funds from the payers are now available and cleared into your bank, we know, and our software updates NetSuite on the transaction level, and then also on a reconciliation level. So this payment status, you can see here, it's in flight, not yet deposited into my bank. Once those funds land, we actually do daily deposits. So you get a daily batch deposit from Paystand. And once those funds hit your bank, Paystand generates a report inside NetSuite for you, and it's a deposit report or a transfer report. So what Paystand will say is, hey, you've just received 223K into your bank account today. These are all of the individual transactions from what customers, what payment method they used, what invoices they were applied to. And now you have this daily automated reconciliation process, which has been a huge part of the puzzle that we're solving for companies, reducing their month-end process from 2 weeks to 2 days, making sure that they always know what's going on with their cash flow, just giving a lot more visibility, and then a better customer experience along the way. So that really kind of just walks us through a typical, like a standard invoice receivable flow. But there's a lot that we can actually, as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot that we can include into this process. One of the products that we offer that's optional, but our customers are loving, is a smart lockbox. So if you're a company that deals with a lot of paper checks, we have a lockbox that's actually integrated with your NetSuite. So Paystand will receive checks on your behalf, scan them, apply them, reconcile them, and do all of the check processing and handling for you. So there's a lot that we can actually support. The sales process with Paystand, and that's my job. I'm a senior account executive here, so I work specifically in our NetSuite vertical, and always day in, day out, I'm working with NetSuite clients. This is the process I would walk them through. This can be very easy. My job is really to make this as smooth as possible for you. So I've seen people get through this in a matter of a couple of days, a couple of months. It really depends on the appetite and the scoping that we need to put into this project. So just let us know if you're interested. This is our contact information here. Feel free to do a little screenshot or anything like that, and we'll share this after the presentation as well. But you can contact Alex or I and just let us know, like, hey, we were on the Rocky Mountain User Group webinar. Would love to learn a little bit more about Paystand and explore. What I would love to do is just set up a quick 15, 30-minute call and see if we're a good fit, and then we can take it from there. So feel free to reach out and let us know. And I believe we're coming right up on our time slot here. So yeah, any quick questions, put them in the chat, and we'll be in touch, and we're available to chat further. So Corey and Stratus and everyone else involved here today, we really appreciate the time and hope the content goes really well today. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Great. Thanks, Tim and Alex. Thanks again for sponsoring our meeting today. So, and then you can go ahead and post your raffle link in the chat window there. And at this point, we will get Brad from Kwiatek Consulting queued up and ready to go here.
Perfect. I'm gonna go on video for just a second, but I know I was having some audio visual or some bandwidth issues earlier, so I'm gonna go off video, but we'll obviously go into the content. So
Brad,
hopefully
I'm
you
sorry.
guys can see my screen now, correct?
Real quick, yeah, we can't see your screen. Real quick, Brad, do you have a stopping point in your slides for the CPE questions, or do you want me to?
Yeah, Corey, I'll just have you interject if that's all right with you.
Yep, no problem. Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So appreciate the time today. Like Corey mentioned, my name's Brad Kwiatek. I've been helping companies implement finance and accounting software, specifically primarily budgeting solutions for organizations for about 20 years now. Certainly, as part of the conversation, I do have a spot at the end for questions, but if there are questions that you all have throughout the project, want to make this conversation as interactive as possible, make sure that it is helpful for the entire group. And are you guys able to still hear me? I'm seeing some internet instability.
Yeah, it's a little bit spotty,
Warbly.
Brad.
Okay.
You might consider dialing in on a phone to
Okay.
the 800 number.
Yeah, let me do that quick. Sorry.
Okay, no problem.
Meanwhile, for those of you on, in case you don't have your chat window up, please visit the chat window because Paystand has posted the link to the raffle.
All right. Trying again. Can you hear me okay now?
So far,
Yeah.
it's much better.
Better.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Appreciate the feedback and appreciate you guys' patience with me. So yeah, in terms of today's discussion, want to talk about both the inherent NetSuite budgeting solution within directly within the ERP, as well as NetSuite Planning and Budgeting. Like I was saying earlier, certainly would welcome any questions that you have throughout the conversation. I will have time at the end for questions, but certainly if you have questions throughout, I'm happy to have that conversation throughout the more of an interactive session. So in terms of what we wanted to talk about today, understanding really the compare and contrast between the NetSuite ERP inherent budgeting solution, as well as NSPB or NetSuite Planning and Budgeting. You know, understanding how the integration works between the two, but really even understanding how the capability differences. So we'll talk about really within both the ability to leverage real-time data within NSPB that doesn't include pre-built integration, and being able to really have your data flow back and forth between both systems, between the NetSuite ERP as well as NSPB, to facilitate that and a more holistic process. Within NSPB, we do have the ability to move beyond standard budgeting. So there are additional advanced features like scenario modeling, what if analysis, and other capabilities that we will dive into in order to see those differences and those capability differences. There's the ability to collaborate within both solutions. We will be able to see some enhanced collaboration within the NetSuite Planning and Budgeting or NSPB solution, really to even move beyond just straight spreadsheets, having, again, a more holistic solution around that. And then within NSPB, there are additional pre-built templates to facilitate the budgeting and forecasting process, and enhance that overall solution for organizations, as well as specialized planning solutions like workforce planning or OpEx planning, some revenue planning, other components that can be leveraged out of the box, but then enhanced based on specific requirements needed within the solution. All right, so in terms of when organizations are definitely have seen challenges with traditional planning. So some of what many of the customers that I work with run into in terms of pitfalls for traditional planning is there is a heavy reliance on spreadsheets. So many different versions of spreadsheets, different versions being passed back and forth between various constituents within the budgeting and forecasting process, as well as oftentimes organizations, if they have built out a fairly sophisticated planning model within Excel, Excel can it can grow to a large file size that becomes onerous to essentially open and close and manage within. The planning cycles also oftentimes require rework. A lot of components within the Excel file that just make it much more complicated, as well as requiring pulls of data sources in a very manual way. So in order to pull in actual information, oftentimes it requires a lot of VLOOKUPs or SUMIF type of requirements in order to be able to see comparisons of actuals versus budget, as well as potentially formula issues that oftentimes then can cause issues in terms of the end reports that are occurring. And then finally, oftentimes it does limit the amount of scenario analysis that can then occur. It does take time and effort to essentially refresh those Excel files and be able to then build out additional scenarios. If you're looking at a potential acquisition, understanding what type of impact that might have on the organization, or obviously as the market change and shifts, being able to react to the change in the marketplace, and understand how to be able to shift your planning process around that, oftentimes can be fairly manual and tedious as well. All right, so as we look at NetSuite ERP budgeting and NSPB, or NetSuite Planning and Budgeting, there are overlapping capabilities and components, but obviously there are differences between the two solutions as well. Oftentimes I do essentially think of NetSuite ERP budgeting as well as NSPB on a continuum of as organizations grow and mature, being able to move up that maturity model between the two different solutions. So NetSuite ERP budgeting does allow organizations to capture a budget, to be able to do variance analysis, so be able to perform budget versus actual analysis. That's even inherent within the NetSuite solution. It does allow organizations to be able to put together a fairly straightforward budget, but the overall process is fairly limited in terms of the ability, at least of the solution, to allow for collaboration. Fairly manual. Most organizations, in terms of how they use the NetSuite ERP budgeting solution, they'll manage the process primarily in Excel, go through that budgeting process. Potentially, if there are budget owners or various department ownership that does participate in the budgeting process, we'll have Excel files that are shared back and forth in order to assemble the budget, and then essentially a single budget is uploaded into NetSuite ERP. That is a fairly usually static process, and one that it does give you, again, that ability to perform variance analysis but in terms of actually creation of the budget, is typically fairly limited. As we look towards NetSuite Planning and Budgeting, you are able to capture your budget within the solution, but also be able to leverage more complex type of scenarios where you can build out driver-based modeling and forecasting, scenario planning. In terms of that can include specific use case areas like workforce planning or capital planning or other types of scenarios where you're able to leverage the solution in order to help facilitate the build out of your plan or your forecast, as opposed to simply utilizing the tool just to capture those budgets. It does allow for additional multidimensional type of analysis. We'll dive into better what that means and how that's leveraged within the NSPB solution, but it does give additional granularity that can be used in order to facilitate the budgeting process. There is the ability to do more strategic or planning or what-if scenarios, as well as leveraging NSPB to perform more ongoing forecasting process. And as I mentioned earlier, the solution does allow for multiple users to be able to collaborate on the budget and forecast. There's workflows within the solution that can be leveraged in order to facilitate approval process or other forms of communication as organizations put together their forecast their budget. And then from an integration perspective, NSPB, and we'll see this as we get into demo, is a separate application from the ERP, but your segmentation and your actual data is integrated in order to allow seamless integration between the NetSuite ERP and NSPB, as well as NSPB does have integration with Excel and Google Sheets and other Microsoft, as well as other Microsoft Office products like Word and PowerPoint, where you're able to interact with the data in a real-time form, and it is a truly connected scenario, as opposed to exporting data using pivot tables or others in order to analyze the data. It truly is a connected solution between NSPB and Microsoft Office products. And then finally, from a agility perspective, the solution does allow for continuous planning. We'll see some of the capabilities in terms of predictive planning. So as organizations continue to evolve, being able to leverage solution around those type of scenarios as well. All right. So then, in terms of the solutions, again, both solutions do allow organizations to capture their budgets, potentially even forecasts, but there's definitely enhanced ability within NSPB to perform additional budgeting forecasts and scenario modeling and strategic financial planning type of scenarios, as well as from a reporting perspective. There are multiple ways that the data can be drilled into, pivoted, and we'll see that again more from a demo perspective. All right, So as we drill into NetSuite ERP, the budgeting use cases and capabilities, again, it does allow for budgeting and forecasting across. You're able to budget by account, by department, class, location, subsidiary. So it does give you that ability, even to be able to capture your budget at a more granular level that then can be used from a variance analysis perspective. You are able to have multiple budget versions per fiscal calendar. So some organizations will use that as they forecast throughout the year, and if there are compelling reasons potentially to do a budget modifications throughout the year. The information that is captured within the budget does allow you to be able to have budget versus actual reports. So perform variance analysis directly within the NetSuite ERP, as well as be able to see that information as KPIs on dashboards. There is the ability to be able to import and/or export the budget via a CSV type of scenario. And then, in terms of the Suite Analytics workbook, you are able to perform additional analysis around that, as well as other similar type of capabilities within the NetSuite ERP solution. So I'm gonna dive in and at least demo again some of the core capabilities within the NetSuite ERP, and at least walk through how organizations might be able to leverage this. I will at least caveat that my experience on the NetSuite ERP side, in terms of utilizing the solution, is a little bit more limited than it is on the NSPB side. But I am familiar enough, and obviously if there's questions that people have within this group, happy to answer as much as possible. And certainly if we need to follow up on additional questions you have, happy to track that down as well. So I'm gonna dive into a demo instance. So in terms of setting up your budgeting solution within the NetSuite ERP, you're able to access your budget from the transaction menu within financial, and then there is the ability to under the setup budgets menu item to be able to list out the current budgets that are in the system. You're able to search, and then, like I was mentioning, you are able to actually import a budget. I'm not going to go into detail, at least today, in terms of how that import process works. There's a lot of resources out there, but you do, again, have the ability, and this is where a lot of organizations would actually leverage an external Excel file where they're then able to import their holistic budget to be able to use that from a reporting variance analysis perspective. So if I go to the list menu item, this essentially demonstrates my current budget that I have within my demo instance. It does list out all of the budgeted line items that I have within the system. I am able to drill in and view those budgeted line items. If I do need to make a minor modification to the budget, I am able to potentially edit them as well. Like I said, typically a lot of organizations, if they're going to make more of a holistic modification to the budget, they would do that through the import process, where they would essentially re-import that updated budget in order to basically have that latest and greatest version of the budget within the NetSuite ERP. Otherwise, you do also have the ability to essentially, it's called copy budgets, but it's the ability to seed, I would say, or create a budget based on either an existing budget or even potentially your actuals. So, you know, I can choose one of my existing budgets and utilize that in order to update or create a new budget. I do have the ability to determine if I want to completely replace that budget. If I want to have detail in terms of the department, class, location information, as well as even potentially customer and item, especially if I'm creating that budget from actuals. I do also have the ability to determine how much of the or what types of accounts I want to include as part of that copy from my actuals or an existing budget into the new budget that I'm creating, as well as holistically, I can modify my, you know, I can essentially increase or decrease the budget based on a percentage holistically across, and then obviously I can drill into the individual details in order to update that budget in that manner. Like I said, both from an existing budget that I have in the system, as well as potentially from actuals in the system as well.
Hey, Brad, I'm going to interrupt you real quick for our first CPE question. So I'm going to go ahead and launch the CPE question number 1. So true or false, NetSuite ERP supports budgeting by account, department, class, location, and subsidiary, and allows for multiple budget versions per fiscal calendar. That is true or false. I'm going to leave the CPE question up for about a minute. About 30 seconds left for our first CPE question. If you're interested in CPE credits, you need to answer the questions. You don't have to get them right. You just have to at least answer the question. 10 seconds. Okay, I'll go ahead and end the poll. I'll share the results. Looks like most everybody answered true. Brad, what's the answer to that one?
So the answer there is true. Yes, you're able to then the NetSuite ERP budget by all of those areas. So you have the ability to determine again, and we kind of even showed it here on within the demo, all those segments. You don't have to, but you have the ability to.
Okay, great. Thanks, Brad. Can you keep on going, and I'll interrupt you again in a little bit.
All right, thanks, Corey. All right, so the last item that I wanted to show, at least for now, within the NetSuite ERP in terms of budgeting. So as mentioned, you have the ability to capture your budget. You're able to update and modify your budget, but then also you do have the ability to utilize that budget within reporting. So you can use standardized reports as well as create custom reports or dashboards that would expose that budget information. Typically out of the box, there is a report that does give you the ability to do variance analysis. So it'll be able to see budget versus actual information. So in this case, you know, I am able to see how I'm trending. If I look at this by accounting period, for my budget versus my actual. So you know, in this case, it does give you both what your actual amounts were for the months that have occurred, as well as what your budgeted amount was, and then if you're over or under the budget, and by what dollar amount, as well as a percentage. So again, you're able to at least be able to see how you're trending on your actuals versus budget. Certainly make potential modifications within the organization or decisions from a future state to be able to ensure that you're better able to meet the overall budget, or even potentially, again, use that information to help reforecast. In terms of NetSuite ERP budgeting, again, those were the main components I wanted to walk through. Any questions on this, or any items that anyone wanted to dive into deeper right now? Okay. All right. So as we dive more into NetSuite Planning and Budgeting, again, if you have questions throughout, feel free to raise your hand or ask throughout the conversation. And then let's see. So Abby asked the question: are there plans to include custom segments in the standard budget versus actual reporting? I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I mean, it's certainly, you do have the ability to filter by any of those custom segments if they are available. But yeah, in terms of the standard, I am not 100% sure if there are custom segments that would be able to, one, be filtered, as well as be able to see in general. I will say, Abby, and you know, this is something we can talk about in more detail. You do have the ability within NetSuite Planning and Budgeting to be able to incorporate those custom segments, and then be able to perform reporting across that. But I don't know if there's anyone else on the line that does have any insight further in terms of the standard reporting within NetSuite ERP.
When you add a custom segment, you can indicate that you want it on the budget, but there are some limitations with it. So it's not impossible, but it's not probably exactly what you want. But Abby, you can try that with the custom segment when you're applying it to places. You can update that, and we can talk about that at the end of the meeting if you want.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. All right. So as I dive into NSPB, certainly, again, if there's questions throughout, feel free to ask them. So in terms of NetSuite Planning and Budgeting, as I mentioned earlier, it is a application that sits outside of NetSuite, and part of that is it is part of an overall Oracle solution, and really is highly leveraged in that Oracle solution. The NetSuite Planning and Budgeting solution has been configured specifically for NetSuite users, and there is out-of-the-box integration, really the ability to refresh on a scheduled basis, as well as an ad hoc basis, in order to update the actual data within NSPB. But like I mentioned, it is a separate application. We'll see that as we drill into this. But there are pre-built data pipelines, so integration that one ensures data governance auditability between the systems, but it does pull your segments from NetSuite. It will update those segments. So if you add a new account, if you add a new subsidiary, if you add a new class, so on and so forth, those new members within your segments do become new members within the dimensions that sit within NSPB. And then your trial balance data at that level of detail, so blown down to your all the segmentation, which includes obviously your chart of accounts or your accounts, your subsidiaries, your departments, your classes, location. It does include relationship information, so customer and vendor information, as well as item level detail. And then as I mentioned, if you do have custom segments, you have the ability to extend NSPB to also be able to utilize those custom segments as well. But like I said, the system does out of the box have pipelines in order to pull both the updated segmentation into NSPB as dimensions, as well as your income statement, balance sheet data, your trial balance data into NSPB. Just as an aside, primarily the data flow from a NetSuite ERP perspective leverages saved searches in order to pull that information into NSPB. And then there is a data management solution on the NSPB side that pulls that information into NSPB. It does allow for mapping. So as it mentions on the screen here, it does have the ability to perform mapping as needed from NetSuite into NSPB. And you are able also to not only pull actuals from NetSuite into NSPB, but as needed, push back your budget and forecast data from NSPB back into the ERP, as it mentions, to facilitate variance reporting as you would like within the ERP. NSPB does provide variance reporting type of solutions within it, but some organizations will choose to push the budget and forecast back into the ERP, partially because from a licensing perspective, there can be differences in the number of users that are licensed for NetSuite ERP versus NSPB. And then, like I said, you have the ability to pull that information on a scheduled basis, but potentially also on a ad hoc basis as well. All right. So then, we've mentioned scenario modeling and version capabilities within NSPB. So the NSPB solution does allow organizations to capture multiple versions of their budget forecast. So both as organizations go throughout the budgeting or forecasting process, gives the ability to have the system archive off major versions or versions as it makes sense throughout, but then also be able to utilize the system to perform best case, worst case, or other scenario planning within the system. There is driver-based modeling capabilities, so we'll see some of that in terms of leveraging the workforce module as well as the OpEx module to be able to perform driver-based modeling. But furthermore, the system can certainly be extended further in order to provide additional driver-based modeling capabilities. If you have sales data that you're able to pull in either from NetSuite or other third-party solutions, you can perform modeling around your revenue or sales information, even potentially using non-financial information in order to drive out the different components of your budget or forecast. There is the ability to perform rolling forecasts within the system. So organizations, as they potentially look to forecast beyond just a single year and adhere to longer term type of forecasting solutions, NSPB does facilitate or provide that. And then there is predictive planning capabilities as well. So using like Monte Carlo or other type of advanced solutions, I guess to some extent AI type solutions, to be able to drive out from a system perspective what your forecast and budget would be, both using actual information as well as, again, the third party other information in order to drive towards your solution. And really the system is set up to allow teams to be able to make decisions. So one, leveraging some of the existing and out-of-the-box reporting, be able to understand what is happening from both a ongoing forecasting perspective, but as your updated actual information flows in from the ERP, to be able to make additional, more informed decisions as well. The system is set up to perform a tremendous amount of ad hoc analysis. Both can be leveraged within the web interface, but then primarily a lot of organizations would utilize it directly in the Smart View solution that we'll see here coming up. All right. So then let's see, next area in terms of NSPB collaboration and governance. So the solution does allow multiple team members within an organization to be able to update forecasts and budgets within the solution, as well as there are multiple capabilities for audit trail and other compliance type of capabilities seen within the system. So you are able to leverage NSPB to there is audit information that will show, especially given that a lot of organizations do have multiple users and multiple team members that are involved in the planning and forecasting process, be able to track who has made updates within the system, and be able to use that from an audit compliance perspective. And then, really ensure that your data model is harnessed from a centralized location throughout the planning process. process, not embedded within Excel, but truly lives within a database system but is exposed through SmartView, Excel, and can then be leveraged again to make additional informed data decisions. As we drill further, as mentioned, there are specific modules that have been pre-built and are available to be leveraged within the solution. So you do have the ability to perform revenue and operation or OpEx planning. So there, we'll again drill into detail around this. And in terms of the solution, there is the ability to essentially perform that information. I think, Corey, I've probably talked for too long now.
That's all right. I'm going to interrupt you for another CPE question.
Sure.
So hang on just 1 second here. I'm going to launch CPE question number 2. Okay, you should be able to see it now. We'll go for about a minute. I'll let everybody read those. About 30 seconds left for the CPE question. Okay, last chance, CPE question number 2. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. I'll share the results. And which is the right answer, Brad?
So 89% of people looks like they got it. Yeah, the scenario modeling what-if analysis is a unique feature to NSPB, one that is really not as inherent in the NetSuite ERP.
Okay. All right.
All right, and I noticed John had a question in terms of where are forecasting data stored, how are forecasting variance reports generated in NetSuite? And John, if you're able to speak, I'm assuming you're speaking of the NetSuite ERP. Where is the forecasting data stored, or I don't know, do you have any further context you can give around that at all? All right. Well, I guess I'll assume, and John, feel free to chime in further. But yeah. So in terms of within the ERP, so if you do have forecasts that you want to create as part of the NetSuite ERP process, essentially you're able to create forecasts as separate separate budget categories within the system. So there are existing budget categories. I think I don't know. I think I may have timed out here a bit in terms of my user interface, but you essentially could create multiple budget categories that could capture your multiple forecasts. You're able to create additional budget categories as it makes sense, and then you could leverage those in order to be able to perform the variance analysis on those forecasts as well. If that didn't answer your question, feel free to respond further, but hopefully that helps a bit. All right, so back to NSPB. So as I was mentioning, there are specific pre-built module components that are available within NSPB. One of them is revenue operational planning. So you do have the ability to One, potentially leverage, again, some drivers, as we mentioned, but then there is trending type capabilities available. And again, we'll see this in further detail as we dive into the demo, where you are able to leverage trends in order to produce your budget or your forecast within the solution, as well as I mentioned, there is the predictive planning capabilities that can be leveraged as well, in order to based on models within the system, be able to drive out what your overall budget and forecast would be. And then throughout the solution, there are various dashboarding and other components that can help to monitor both the budgeting forecasting process, but also monitor where the organization stands overall in terms of the results of the budget and forecast, but then also the variance analysis type of information and other actual information to be able to, again, make more informed decisions. One of the other core modules available is workforce planning. So this allows an organization to be able to plan workforce, essentially drive out the budget or forecast for workforce expenses. But both are, oftentimes workforce can be one of the more the higher component, a greater percentage of the overall expense within the organization, and use this to drive out what wage and salary type of expenses will be occurring within the organization, as well as benefit expenses and any taxes that are paid by the company in order to leverage that. Also be able to understand from a headcount perspective where the organization will sit, and then model changes to the workforce. So as you have potential new hires coming on board, incorporate that into the budgeting and forecasting process, as well as potentially transfers or any other attrition type of assumptions that the organization is making from a workforce perspective. All of that workforce information, is driven out, but then is integrated across the overall income statement in order to ensure that you do have that more holistic view of the impact that workforce has on the budget and forecast, and then potentially even make more strategic workforce type of decisions as well. And then finally, in terms of not as much a module, but as mentioned, there are dashboards and other analytics that are available throughout the system. So give access to real-time KPIs, so be able to see how the organization is trending on a budget versus actual perspective. Be able to understand, even looking at the impact of the current budget or forecast on what the balance sheet and cash flow implications would be potentially as well, and how the organization may need to monitor both from a real-time perspective, but then as they're putting together their forecasts and plans, ensure that there's alignment across the key financial information and targets that are needed by the organization. And then, definitely the ability to drill into transaction level detail. One, especially as you're seeing variances, budget versus actual, but just understanding what might be driving those variances, and if there are key or modified behavior type of decisions that need to be made along the way. And then finally, as I mentioned, the solution does have strong integration with Microsoft Excel, Word, PowerPoint, as well as Google Sheets. So, able to, one, leverage that potentially for building out reports and information as it makes sense, but then even be able to perform more detailed ad hoc analysis. So drill into details in terms of, as you build out your budget or forecast, be able to understand the decisions that have been made from a budgeting forecasting perspective, but then even understanding again variances that are potentially being caused, and what the implications are around that as well. It does this we'll see this SmartView is highly connected with the overall solution, and really just gives the ability to interact with the data within well-known or comfortable type of solutions like Excel that finance and accounting individuals are typically comfortable with. All right, so I'm going to dive now into NSPB and kind of show a lot of what we had seen from a SlideWare perspective then. And
we'll take a quick break for another CPE question then, Brad, if you're going to shift gears real quick. So we'll do CPE number 3, and then so that should be launched, and then we'll plan on a break around 10 or 10:10 or something like that, Brad.
Okay.
About 30 seconds left for this CPE question. CPE question number 3, true or false? All right, I'll go ahead and end the poll and share the results.
Looks like everyone got that one right. So yeah, you all were paying good attention to that. The answer was true.
Okay, excellent.
All right. So like I mentioned, I'm going to dive into NSPB and spend a lot of the remainder of our time kind of walking through the solution. Again, any questions or input folks have throughout, happy to discuss. So as mentioned, the NSPB solution is a separate application from NetSuite. It is, again, highly integrated with NetSuite, but it is a separate application. And in terms of even the user interface, it is overall, a different dynamic than what you might be used to seeing from a NetSuite perspective. The solution, as mentioned, there is a web component which we're seeing right now, and then we'll dive into smart view, at least being able to see how you can interact with the system from a Excel plugin perspective. So as we dive into the solution, really this main dashboard or user interface kind of helps it, or does help to direct to various components within the solution. So first off, there is the ability to complete task management. So to the earlier point around collaboration within the system, the system can be set up to have various tasks to be able to complete, primarily oftentimes to complete your budgeting, your forecasting process, maybe the month-end variance analysis components. But in general, the tasks can be used to essentially help users to remind them of the various tasks that they need to complete along the way. The tasks can include both tasks that need to be completed directly with NSPB, but also potentially give you the ability to have external tasks that at least can be linked to be able to complete along the way, but essentially gives the user a work list or a task list of those items that they need to ensure are part of the overall process to be completed. As the month-end process happens, there are various reporting components that are available within the system. So again, all of the content that you'll see in the demo today is part of what would be available out of the box. But certainly, as I mentioned, many of these components could be extended or allow you to customize or configure more specifically for your requirements. So from a reporting analytics perspective, we're seeing some of the reporting that's available using what are called forms within NSPB, and forms can be used both to deliver reporting as it is in this case, but also allow you to input your budget or your forecast data, make those updates and modifications. In this case, I do have the ability here, one, to be able to be able to view both my budget versus actual and variance information, but then even be able to potentially capture explanations or commentary around what is driving those variances. That information is available. One, it's saved and tracked within the system, and then can be leveraged on other reports and components within the system as well. In this case, we're looking at a pretty simple budget versus actual comparison. As you can see, we do have, at least on this specific form, some of our subsidiary, or in this case, dimensional data exposed. So you do have the ability to drill into your subsidiary information. You're able to drill into department detail. Obviously, see the various the time period that we're viewing as well. And then there is a currency component that is available within the solution as well. Again, some of the reporting capabilities that are available. There are reports that are available as well. So the forms, again, give you the ability to view information, be able to view variance information, potentially also be able to see, what or be able to input data, so your budget and forecast data, where reports tend to be, again, just a report out of the information. The reports can be much more custom or formatted, so you do have the ability to, provide bolding, highlighting, other type of formatting similar to what you would have available within Excel. But then essentially the system can retain that information and produce the reports in a kind of more direct manner. The reports also they have the ability, you can create what's called books, where you can package up multiple reports and be able to essentially have a holistic, a deck or book that can be distributed within the system or outside the system. So these reports can be exported to Excel or PDF. I'm viewing it right now as just within the web, but you do have the ability to export them out and distribute them. And then the system also has what's called bursting capability, where either a report or a book can be essentially rendered and then distributed to users, even those that are not part of the NSPB solution, and email out the reports that might be seen. There is logic even that can be built in. So if you have like department heads that you want to be able to distribute their specific department results, the system can burst those out and distribute them to those various owners as well. And then so like I mentioned, reporting, there's ability to see from a form perspective, from a report perspective, and then as mentioned, there are dashboarding components as well. So the ability to see results in more of a dashboard type of view, with charts and graphs, as well as highlights of the potential components within or the results that you're seeing, and key performance indicators available as well. So then continue to move along the continuum of how
it does feel like a little bit
how the solution is provided. So mentioned how we also have the ability to create multiple versions of your budget or forecast. So this version builder does give us, as you can see, the ability to perform, to create best case, worst case, or other what if and other versions of the budget and forecast. So if I want to create a new forecast version, I have that ability, and I can make assumptions as I build out some of those different scenarios of my budget or forecast. And then in general as well, if we do have an existing budget or forecast that we want to archive off, I have that same ability to archive off budgets and forecasts as well within the system. I'm not going to dive into too much detail around this, but suffice it to say, you'd have that ability to perform a large amount of scenario modeling and what if analysis within the system. As we dive more into some of the modules or the driver-based capabilities within the system, you have the ability to plan out your revenue and gross margin by various components. So these forms are showing some of the potential opportunities that you have in order to plan your revenue and gross margin. So you can potentially plan it by customer, potentially plan by item within the system. We do have that predictive or spread modeling that is available as well. I'll show the predictive modeling in a different instance, but you potentially could leverage that here. And then depending on, updates that you've made to your budget or forecast, be able to see, dashboarding type of information. It's similarly gross margin. So, have the ability to plan based on various trends. So, I can use year-to-date actuals, potentially prior year information, and then plan my gross margin based on my percent of revenue, in this case by my various items that then would apply that down to the gross margin, and then be able to see my overall impact of my forecasting choices, again, in a dashboard here along the way. So revenue, gross margin, like I said, similarly here, OpEx. So, have the ability to plan OpEx based on certain trends and adjustments. I can drill further into that. And then, as I mentioned, we do have the ability to perform predictive modeling as well. So if I drill into one of my specific departments, I can then use the predictive planning capabilities within the system to essentially drive out. So again, based on predictive modeling components within the system, I can actually look at the impact that I'm going to have overall. I can make some decisions in terms of how I want to drive out those predictive modeling. So depending on how much historical data I have in the system, then be able to drive out multiple months and years of predictable data. So in this case, essentially, I'm showing what the various predictions are, and then I would have the ability to then even shift out or apply that predictive model to my data from a budgeting and forecasting perspective. And then I do also want to show workforce. So the workforce model
Hey, Brad.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, would this be a good breaking point so we can we'll do one more CPE and then do a quick break? All right, let's do that. I'm going to pop up a CPE.
Cool. Thanks, Corey. All right. All right. So as I was mentioning, I wanted to dive into being able to show workforce, the workforce module that is available again out of the box within NSPB. So in terms of the workforce module, we're able to incorporate payroll information from various sources. So many organizations will pull from their existing payroll system. Doesn't have to be NetSuite. Can one either be integrated in a fairly seamless manner, or one way or another, we are able to pull that payroll information into NSPB, and overall essentially gives you the ability to, based on assumptions, primarily utilizing existing information about the employees, to be able to then project out what workforce expenses will be from a budget and forecast perspective. So, depending on what salaries are for employees, be able to then project that to the specific department, potentially if there are other dimensionality that is needed to be captured as part of the workforce planning process, you'd have the ability to incorporate that in as well. With that, you're able to again capture the employee, capture the department that they are part of. Potentially, if you have employees that are allocated across multiple departments, be able to incorporate that concept in as well. So in this case, we have here Jack Martinez that's allocated 50% across the administration and then 50% across the engineering department, and essentially allocate his salary and company paid taxes and benefits across those two various departments. Does give the ability to make assumptions in terms of hire dates for employees, potentially if there's some attrition assumptions that want to be built in as well. Have that ability, be able to plan for both salaried as well as hourly employees, and then even incorporate in, concepts of overtime, bonuses, some sort of merit increase or raise, and, potentially even if there are other assumptions that are needed, incorporate those in as well. But then also plan for benefits. So, examples would be 401k with withholding or pay 401k matching that is provided by the company, and then potentially benefits that are paid by the company, medical and dental, vision, other benefits such as that, as well as if there's company paid life or other other benefits, accidental death, so on and so forth, that can be planned and then projected out from a forecast and budgeting perspective, as well as even plan for new hires. So, if we have new hires that we're assuming will be coming on board, give you that ability as well. Similar type of capabilities in terms of making assumptions around their type of employee. So if they're salary or hourly employees, as well as any benefits that would be paid out. And then, as mentioned, there's also assumptions that can be made around the company paid taxes, such as, FICA or Medicare, and others that then would drive out what the overall forecasted or budgeted workforce expenses would be for that would be paid by the company, and then use that as part of your overall budget to align to the overall budget and forecast and then obviously be able to perform variance analysis, budget versus actual around that as well. As well as based on the assumptions that are made, see the impact that they would have from a budget forecast perspective, and then potentially make modifications further if there's potentially anything missing or any assumptions that that need to be modified further throughout. So that's at least workforce and kind of some of the main components that are available from a out-of-the-box workforce planning perspective. I mentioned earlier that the NSPB does come with tight integration to Microsoft Office as well. So it's able to be exposed in a few different manners, but all of the forms and reporting components that I showed in the web similarly would be available in Excel and can be interacted with or able to be viewed in Excel. So for instance, if I look at this actual versus budget variance and commentary form, I have the ability, and this is just one of the ways to open this form or be able to view this form, but I'd be able to open that form directly in SmartView. And I had logged in previously on the SmartView side, but if I click that link, it's going to, as I mentioned, open that form then directly in SmartView for me to be able to interact with it here as well. So then, I can begin to see that same information potentially if I have, budget or forecasting data that I want to be able to link to other Excel files, I would potentially have that ability as well. And then additionally, so within SmartView, this view shows me how I can interact with a specific form. But within SmartView, I also have the ability to perform ad hoc analysis where I can essentially drill down, pivot. Essentially, I equate it to having a pivot table, kind of a pivot table on steroids, that you're then able to analyze further and drill into additional detail. So from this form, if I click on the Analyze button, it'll open that same information here directly in Excel, where I'm then able to interact with the system here as well. So in this case, if I wanted to look at just actual data for within the system and better understand what's going on from an actual perspective, I have that ability to be able to see that information. So I'm gonna essentially just report on actual, and then 1 second, sorry. So just report on actual, and then basically drill into the details. So if I keep only here on actuals, then I would have the ability to essentially now kind of pivot or slice and dice into further detail. So if I want to see, my sales data by my various customers, I'd have that ability to do that on this form and kind of drill into that detail. So if I'm simply going to look at total sales information, if I want to see the customers that are that comprise that sales data. I can zoom in to my customer detail here. In this case, I'm drilling into all of the customers that are available in the system, but if I want, I can actually limit it to just the customers that actually have data for the month, so I can hone in a little bit more specifically on that information. So in this case, able to see my list of customers that have comprised that total sales data, and be able to then understand, potentially if I had budgeted down to that level, which in my demo instance I did not, but say I had budgeted down to specific customers, then I could even potentially look at budget versus actual comparison and understand where I'm trending, where I may be missing the mark in terms of my actual data from a budget or forecast perspective as well. Questions on Smart View? Questions about that at all?
I think we can probably just take this opportunity for another CPE question while we're here.
Sure.
So I'll go ahead and pop that up. CPE question is launched. Keep that up for about a minute. About 20 seconds left for the CPE question. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end the question poll. Share the results.
Yep. So people were able to get that one pretty easily. Yeah, that it is true. So part of that is, there is the integration between NetSuite ERP and NSPB, where we're able to pull actual data from the ERP into NSPB. So you always have updated financial operational data based on the latest and greatest actuals, but then you do have the ability to push your forecasts and budgets back from NSPB into the NetSuite ERP as well.
All right, thanks.
Okay. Sure. All right. So then, in terms of kind of the solution, I mentioned various components in terms of reporting, kind of collaboration. One of the things I did want to kind of drill into or further show is I had mentioned how if I'm a planner within the system, I do have the ability to kind of capture audit information. One as maybe I've as a team member making modifications to the budget or forecast. If I'm modifying those, I do have essentially the system does perform an audit trail of all the changes I've made. So, for instance, if I go in and I'm going to modify my here in this case salary and wage information and save that updated information, I then would have a audit trail of the changes that have been made. So Here within the web, the same type of capability exists directly within SmartView as well. I have a change history of everything that's occurred. So in this case, it'll show that, I modified that salary and wage number from the previous value to the new value, and then certainly be able to potentially drill into those details as well. Some of the other kind of core capabilities that are available within the system is I have the ability to, if I am changing a number, if I change it at the total year amount, it'll spread that information back for me based on the existing ratio that's occurring within the system here. I also have the ability to, in this case, the way this form is set up, I can add additional detail lines. So, in this case, if there's some details that I want to capture from a planning forecasting perspective, I have that ability as well. But at the same time, the system does give you the ability to actually capture comments. So I can, make a comment on maybe one of the changes that I've made in the system. That comment then resides with that data intersection throughout the entire system. So, if I want to at least provide justification as to why I've modified a certain budget or forecast number, give that ability as well. And then even further, there is the ability to actually upload additional or provide additional line item details where similar to these additional details, I have that ability to provide additional details along the way. And then I also have the ability to make overall adjustments. So I can adjust the data based on updated a specific value or adjust it by a certain percentage up and down. And then even further to make adjustments overall to the grid where I can adjust it in a proportional, even or fill manner. And then again, either adjust it by a percentage or overall to a new value there too. So again, some of the additional kind of collaboration and other feature functionality that's available to help facilitate a more seamless forecasting and budgeting process along the way. Corey, do you want to maybe, I know we have a few more questions left. Did you want to interject another one here?
Yeah, that's good timing. I can do that. I'll pop another one up. Okay, we'll launch our CPE question. All right, the multiple choice. Okay, about 10 seconds left for this CPE question. All right, I'll go ahead and end the poll. Here are the results.
Yeah, which find it best describes the advantage of using NSPB's pre-built templates and automation fields. It does help to reduce planning cycle times and minimize errors. You know, we're still hoping to ensure that there is collaboration amongst teams. So not trying to eliminate that completely, but it definitely, you know, help to better facilitate that along the way.
All right.
Okay. All right. So I guess in terms of a lot of the main items that I wanted to cover today, I've kind of, I can certainly provide some additional demo or components to drill into, but I guess I wanted to pause here and see if there are any questions or if there's any items that people wanted to drill into further that make sure that this is, again, most impactful for the group. Any questions or items that people wanted to drill into at all right now? Okay. Well, like I said, some of the additional capabilities that at least we can drill into. So one of the things that I did not really talk about within the system is, you know, we focused, at least in terms of what I discussed, mostly on the income statement. But you know, a lot of organizations, as we've run into some of the challenges that we've had over the last several years, certainly have taken a much closer look at their balance sheet and cash flow, from both obviously an actuals perspective, but then even from a budgeting and forecasting perspective. And so again, the system does have at least some pre-built components that are available in order to help facilitate that process. So specifically, when we're talking about the balance sheet, there are assumptions that can be made, somewhat based on potentially trending of the existing kind of tie between the balance sheet income statement. So between sales, the sales that have occurred, and then the receivables that are then driving that as well. So in this case, there is some assumptions that can be made in terms of based on the sales that are being forecasted or planned, assumptions around how much of those sales will occur on credit, and then what is the DSO or day sales outstanding assumptions that we are making, and that would then drive at least the receivables portion of the balance sheet. So, you know, using your budget and forecasting sales numbers, then converting that or driving that based on the DSO assumptions that we have in order to then drive that component at least of the balance sheet. Similarly, from an inventory perspective, you know, there's assumptions that can be made around inventory to then drive the inventory in stock number. On the payable side, you know, the amount of purchases that are on credit, and then the DPO assumptions that you're making in order to then drive out your accounts payable portion of the balance sheet. You know, these again are some of the inherent or out of the box driver-based assumptions that are made on the balance sheet. But then furthermore, there is the ability to drive out additional assumptions on the balance sheet. So either, again, using some sort of trending logic, and these are trends that are available out of the box but could be further extended, or even giving the ability to manually input your balance sheet assumptions, any of the movements that we want to plan our forecast, then that would drive out your overall your balance sheet based on those assumptions. And then the system does simply have a cash plug for any of the offsets that occur. Certainly have the ability to further refine the balance sheet from a budget or forecast perspective in order to better align what that cash plug should be. But then, drive that out from an overall balance sheet forecasting perspective. But additionally, you're able to then see, what kind of impact those assumptions have on the from a cash cycle perspective, and then, overall be able to see what your balance sheet might be based on then what that budget forecasted amount is, and then even further be able to then essentially be able to see the impacts that there would be from a cash perspective. Generally, the cash flow, at least from a forecasting perspective, it is primarily focused on operating cash flow, but certainly there is the ability to incorporate investing or financing activities as well, as you have them known, to then drive out the overall cash flow from a balance or from a budgeting and forecasting perspective too. Questions on that? Okay. So then I guess generally in terms of the NSPB solution, certainly, as I mentioned, I kind of went through a lot of the main items that I wanted to focus on. It's probably worth at least drilling in a bit on some of the additional components just to have further clarity. So, in terms of the kind of maybe two main areas that I wanted to drill further into. One, so as I've mentioned, the segmentation within NetSuite does flow from NetSuite into NSPB and creates what's called dimensions. So as I mentioned earlier, the dimensions that by default from NetSuite and get updated, at least in some manner, between NetSuite and NSPB are your account or chart of accounts dimension, your class dimension, the currency dimension, currency segment, again, as it applies for those organizations that are multi-currency, your department segment, the items within your NetSuite instance, the location segment within NetSuite, the period and years would make up your accounting period. So the combination of those defines the accounting period. Your relationship, so this would include your customer and vendor details, as well as potentially project related segmentation as well, where it makes sense. The scenario dimension is used to bifurcate budget versus actual versus forecast, and some of the other variance components. So, looking at budget versus actual, both from a dollar and percentage perspective, that dimension is utilized in that manner. The subsidiary dimension pulls in your subsidiary information from NetSuite, and then tracker is used specifically kind of more from I'll call it administrative perspective within NSPB. So that's used some to capture like commentary, any kind of main adjustment type of information that you make. It's used also to help drive out the balance sheet and cash flow, and some other kind of more administrative type of tasks. And then version is used for the ability to provide versioning, be able to capture different versions of your budget or your forecast, be able to provide some of the what if scenario, best case, worst case scenario modeling that's available within the system as well. So again, those were at least some of the kind of the tie between NSPB and NetSuite with your segmentation to dimensionality mapping. And then one of the other items that I wanted to at least just briefly show is I mentioned that on the NSPB side, there is a kind of data management layer that then is used to pull the dimensionality, so your segmentation information from NetSuite into NSPB, as well as be able to pull your actual income statement and balance sheet data. So, pull that information from your NetSuite instance. And again, this can be performed on a scheduled basis. Most organizations would schedule it at least overnight on a nightly basis, but then also can be the pull of your segmentation and your trial balance data can occur on an ad hoc basis as well. So be able to pull that information as it makes sense on more of a as needed basis. So during close, for instance, if there were updates that have been made that are fairly timely, that you want to ensure that you have that updated actual data in NSPB to be able to produce reports, and have that ability essentially to launch the pull of that information from NetSuite into NSPB. Any questions on that? Corey, do we want to do more polling now, or are you waiting till later?
We can just do the last ones as soon as when you're done here. I think that would be fine.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I think in terms of, like I said, the main items that I wanted to drive through, those were the main components. Certainly happy to, if there are questions or anything that open items that people have questions about, happy to dive further into those questions. Otherwise, as Corey mentioned, I was planning on doing a giveaway as well. Mine's not quite as cool as the Paystand folks, but I can dive into that too, and then kind of close things out if that makes sense, Corey.
Sounds good. Yep.
Okay. All right. So yeah, in terms of, all right. So yeah, in terms of my giveaway, I'm raffling off 2 Amazon gift cards, and I I'll put the form to complete in the chat, and then I'll certainly you can grab it from here as well. But
And I'll go ahead and do our final CPE questions. So let's go ahead and pop those up real quick. And while Brad is doing that, so here's our CPE question number 7. So if you're interested in CPE credits, you need to answer these. We'll go about 40 more seconds for this CPE question.
म्हणून आपण रात्री 1 वाजेपर्यंत हवन सेवा करू शकता. हवन करण्याचे फायदे काय होते?
All right, we'll go ahead and end this one. And the answer to this one, Brad, is?
So it would be workforce planning. You have the ability to plan compensation, headcount, and other kind of workforce related changes as from a board budget or forecast perspective.
Okay. And then we're going to do our last CPE question right now. So that one is launched. About 30 seconds left on our final CPE question. Ten seconds for our last CPE question. All right, I'll go ahead and end this one, share the results.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping that through the discussion today, everyone's aware that yes, the intent is that NSPB would help to ensure that you have actually have a more efficient and less error-prone planning process than a manual spreadsheet-based planning process.
Okay.
All right. Well, so I've flashed up my contact information. Certainly, if anyone has questions that they weren't able to ask during the presentation, happy to discuss further. You can find me pretty easily on LinkedIn as well. My last name is fairly easy to find. Yeah, appreciate everyone's time today. Like I said, happy to answer any further questions either today or at a later date as well.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Brad. Great presentation, very informational. So we're gonna shift over to our SuiteWorld recap right now, and then if there are any other follow-up questions about native NetSuite budgeting or NSPB, we can talk about that in the open forum. I know that Dana had something she wanted to share based on the custom segments. So I'll go ahead and take over screen sharing, Brad. And so Ryan and I both went to SuiteWorld this year, and we have some information to share about our experiences there, or basically some of the new stuff that NetSuite is coming out with. So let me get my screen share set up here. Okay, can someone just confirm my screen share looks okay?
Looks good.
Great, thank you so much. All right, so here's my SuiteWorld recap, SuiteWorld 2025. This was, I think, probably my favorite SuiteWorld. I've been 7 or 8 times now. I can't recall, but it's just a lot of really exciting things coming, and I had a great time as well. So one thing, just real quick, I want to mention is that NetSuite always announces how many customers they have at the beginning of SuiteWorld. So they have announced they serve over 43,000 customers globally. I think this is really great because it as more companies start using NetSuite, the whole community around NetSuite develops. So there's more users, there's more things going on, there's more innovation, I think, from the Oracle and NetSuite side as more and more companies adopt the system. So I just think it's pretty cool that they're continuing to grow like this. So this introduction, so NetSuite Next was one of the huge announcements, and if you haven't heard about it yet, you're going to be hearing about it a lot as we go into the next probably year or so. So NetSuite Next is the next generation version of NetSuite with built-in AI capabilities, and it's going to have like tons and tons of AI capabilities. I am not going to go through all of the details here, but I will point out that it's not a separate product, but it's kind of an upgrade. If you're familiar with Salesforce at all, Salesforce kind of went through the Salesforce Classic, and now they have the Salesforce Lightning, and it's kind of a whole different interface, and they incorporated a bunch of new stuff there, and so you can kind of liken it to the same, a similar concept in general. So I think it's just going to be built in. I mean, there is speculation that NetSuite's going to charge more for NetSuite Next and all these AI capabilities, but from everything that I heard at the conference, it's just going to be the new NetSuite, and it's not necessarily going to be something that NetSuite is going to charge extra for to be able to get these new features. So some of the features of NetSuite Next, basically it has tons of AI built in to analyze data, automate tasks, provide tons of insights. One of the big things is this natural language interaction. So there's going to be a new function called Ask Oracle, which I think they've said it's kind of going to replace the global search box. And so it'll basically allow you to talk to your system in plain language and ask questions and get feedback and get data out of NetSuite with this Ask Oracle functionality. That's probably going to be one of the biggest things that people will notice with this NetSuite Next. And then they have what's called agentic workflows. And basically you'll be able to create automated processes that leverage the AI functionality to do a lot more automation in a really smart way. So again, they're kind of building a whole bunch of new things into it. So the Ask Oracle, talk about this a little bit more. Users ask questions in plain language, like what were my top 5 customers last quarter? The system interprets queries, pulls relevant data. The answers include data analysis and visualizations, which I think is pretty cool. So you don't have to go in and build custom reports all the time. It has context-aware responses, so it's tailored to the user's business scenario, and basically it makes it really easy to get complex data out of the system and put it in an easy to read format. So they demonstrated it at SuiteWorld, and I'm excited. I think it's going to really drastically change the way that we interact with NetSuite. The agentic workflows, they're AI-driven processes that go beyond alerts and analysis to actively propose or carry out tasks. These workflows can execute tasks such as vendor selection, financial reconciliations, supply chain management, and then it has built-in oversight to ensure accuracy and control. I think there's going to be again a lot more to come on these built-in processes. They're also going to have an AI canvas and collaborative workspace that's part of it. So you can have interactive workspaces where your team can work with data, collaborate on data, but with the same within the same workspace. And then the other cool thing I think is that there's going to be document and knowledge integration. So NetSuite Next is going to be able to ingest unstructured documents like invoices, contracts, PDFs, and training manuals. And then it's going to use AI to interpret and extract meaningful data from these documents automatically. I think there's a ton of ramifications of this. I mean, especially like if you're talking about getting invoices and contracts and things like that into NetSuite, uploading a file to the system and having it automatically read it. It's like this optical character recognition on steroids. I think it's going to be pretty amazing. I'm excited. So here's a screenshot. This is one of the screenshots that NetSuite shared. And this box down here in the lower right corner, this is the ask the ask Oracle function. And I'm gonna just expand that. Sorry about the graininess of this, but basically the question that was asked is, how do our most and least profitable products compare? And then it gives you this answer. Over the last 12 months, your top performers average 32% profit margins, while your bottom three are only 3% margins. And so it gives you detail, and then it'll create like a graphic or a file that gives you that comparison. And so again, this is like this is your everyday users asking these questions directly in NetSuite, and I think it's going to be pretty cool. So NetSuite Next, 12 to 18 months is what they're saying for when it'll be available. They say North America is going to get it available before anybody else. And then kind of roll out to the rest of the world after that. As far as actual timing, who knows? It's definitely hard to say. So another thing that's really interesting to me, because I work a lot with integrations from NetSuite to other systems, is this NSIP. So NSIP is NetSuite Integration Platform. So basically, you may have heard of the NetSuite Connector. NetSuite Connector was a company called FarApp that NetSuite acquired, and then they built in, basically rebranded it as NetSuite Connector. So they have standard integration options that have to standard platforms like NetSuite to Shopify or NetSuite to Amazon, NetSuite to Salesforce. So it's NetSuite's offering. So NSIP is an Oracle product that has been around for, I think they said 20 or 25 years or something like that. And it is now they've taken that Oracle product and made it a NetSuite integration platform, and it has a ton more flexibility than the NetSuite Connector. I have had a chance to look at NSIP, and I can attest that it looks pretty powerful. It looks like it has a ton of flexibility and functionality, but it doesn't have the pre-built functions like NetSuite Connector does. They have some pre-built templates, but it's just going to be a lot more functional to do all kinds of stuff. So pre-built adapters and connectors. It is a drag and drop type interface. They have API and data integration support. You can do process and workflow automation. There's a dashboard governance that that has built in. And then they talk about scalability and security on that. So NSIP, you'll probably hear about it more and more as NetSuite keeps rolling it out, but it looks like a pretty cool system. And then so they have this the new intelligent payment automation. Basically, I'm not going to read through all this. They're taking their AP automation kind of to the next level. They've partnered with Bill, formerly known as Bill.com, and they're getting basically a lot of extra automation built in. And Bill already has some AI functionality that they're leveraging in their AP automation, and so they're going to be upgrading their NetSuite's intelligent payment automation in collaboration with Bill.com. So, in the sake of time, I'm going to skip on past this, and I'm going to turn it over to Ryan for his thoughts.
Thanks, Corey. I'm going to share my screen if that's okay.
Yep.
Let me know if you guys can see that.
Not yet.
Now. there we go.
There better be a picture of the suit.
Oh, there's a little baby one right there, but
There we go.
yeah, I went to SuiteWorld with Corey. I think I can agree it was my favorite SuiteWorld out of however many I've been to. I think the NetSuite Next announcement, whether it's in the next 6, 12, 18 months, I think once they get there, it's going to be a really, really cool upgrade. My favorite part about it, which Corey showed, is the new interface. I think it needs a significant lift, and I think this is the step in the right direction. So I'm really excited about that. I just wrote this blog about SuiteWorld. I'm just gonna skip through the things that Corey mentioned and touch on a few other things. One other thing they announced was on top of the 43,000 customers, they said that they have 2 million users on NetSuite, which I thought was pretty cool. And they have 1.4 million users using OneWorld. So I thought that was an interesting stat. One thing that they announced an update to, and it's available now if you haven't used it yet, is called the MCP connector. It is free. It's a free suite app in the store right now. It allows you to connect NetSuite to any AI that allows for MCP connection. So ChatGPT, Claude, lots of other AI tools. I highly recommend installing it, testing it out if you can. Obviously in a sandbox first, and see what you can do with it. I think we're going to do an AI session meeting in the next few months. So more news on that to come. They announced new standard tools for the MCP connector, and they announced for it to connect to ChatGPT, which was pretty cool. Everything from what I understood with NetSuite Next is all built on the Oracle Redwood interface, which is very intuitive, drag and drop, very interactive, and it's just a whole new interface for NetSuite, which I'm really excited about. I believe, at least from past SuiteWorlds, when they've demoed it, it's like mobile and tablet ready as well. So it's very different layouts, and it's very interactive for different screen sizes, which hopefully pushes them in more of a mobile direction as well, which will be exciting. The biggest cheer that I heard at SuiteWorld was when they announced dark mode. So that'll be cool to test out and see. And then a few things that I don't have on this list was some dev tools. So any developers on the call, they announced a Suite Cloud Developer Assistant, which is AI code companion. So you can write and update your code in this program. It's SDF context aware, so it's aware of all the rules and everything needed for a Suite app. And then it's also account contextually aware. So it's aware of all the information in your account as you're writing code, which I thought was cool. They didn't announce this at SuiteWorld, but they did push it and talk about it a good amount, is the new SuiteScript module, which is called N-LLM. I've used it quite a bit. You can essentially add in an AI component into any script inside of your NetSuite. So it runs through the AI module that's built into NetSuite, and you can integrate that into your scripts, which is pretty cool. Just to touch a little bit more on two more things. Corey mentioned the AI agents, which is going to be a part of Ask Oracle. I thought that also was a really cool feature they announced. One of the examples they did during the keynote was asking Oracle or asking NetSuite to monitor their competition and when the competition's prices went below theirs, to adjust their prices as well. So I think there's going to be lots of really cool capabilities with the AI agents once they release that. The last thing that I saw, which they said at the very end of the second keynote, was this is going to be longer than 12 to 18 months, but they wanted to show it. Here is a really bad picture of it, but I'll try to explain it best I can. They talked about this new feature that was called Business 360, and it essentially was keeping track of every single department of your business in one dashboard. So from sales and customers to products and services to your financials and HR. So you have a holistic view of your entire business, and you could see if it's red and it needs attention, or if it's green and it's on track. Obviously don't know when they'll release that, but I thought that was pretty cool. And I think that's the last thing that I had to share. I'll hand it over to Corey.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks.
Okay, so at this point, I'm going to stop recording and we'll turn it over to Mr. Mike to support our